which criticized the global war party. Yes, such a global war party exists. And this global war party is not just a threat for you, the proud Georgians. This global war party is also a threat for our Baltic friends, for Germany, for France, for the Nordics, for Spain, for Italy, for Greece, for Romania, for Bulgaria. This global war party is Russia! The Russian imperialism!
This is my video update on this Tuesday, midday, November the 12th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And we may have some new Trump cabinet picks. I say maybe because this hasn't been confirmed by Trump himself. At least Stefanik, that I believe is confirmed. But the new picks, the New York Times, the Guardian, much of the collective West mainstream media is writing articles that these are the guys that Trump is going to go with, at least with foreign policy. We are looking at Rubio for Secretary of State, and we are looking at Mike Waltz for the National Security Advisor, Sullivan's position. This has not been confirmed by Trump. Maybe by the time I post this video, this will be confirmed, or maybe none of this is true. But you do have multiple publications, mainstream media outlets saying that these are the picks. So if these picks turn out to be correct, what are we looking at? Well, I think we're looking at neocon light. Not as hardcore neocon team as Biden had assembled, but neocon-ish nonetheless. I've always said that Rubio is a new kind of neocon. He is a type of neocon light. I've always categorized Rubio as that. But we're probably looking at, if this is confirmed true, we are probably looking at a shift from Project Ukraine, from Europe to the Middle East, Iran, and definitely towards China. This doesn't mean that the Trump White House will pull away from NATO, will stop its funding and support of NATO. What I think we're looking at is a foreign policy team that will press the Europeans to increase their contributions into NATO significantly over the 2% mark. So they'll basically tell the Europeans, pour more money into NATO, pour more money into the military-industrial complex, and deal with Project Ukraine. You guys take more of the burden of Project Ukraine onto your shoulders. Something like that, I think, is what these picks signal. Once again, if they're confirmed true. Rubio, he's big on sanctions. So if he does turn out to be Secretary of State, maybe we're looking at the continuations of sanctions as a foreign policy weapon, which is a bad idea. Interesting that you have Waltz, who is Florida. You have Rubio, who is Florida. You have Stefanik, who is New York. Lee Zeldin is being talked about as the EPA, as taking over the EPA. He's also New York. So an interesting geographic pick from Trump, New York and Florida. That's kind of interesting. But Rubio is he's a China hawk. Waltz is a China hawk. They're also both focused on the Middle East and they're Iran hawks. This doesn't mean that they're against taking on Russia. Both Rubio and Waltz, they don't like Russia. Stefanik as well. They've all said very hawkish things about Russia, and they've been pro Project Ukraine. But it's worth noting that Rubio voted against the 60 billion package that Biden eventually got through, and I believe Waltz has also been against funding Project Ukraine if you don't fund the southern border, something like that. So Waltz has also put conditions on supporting Project Ukraine as well. So look, they don't like Putin, they don't like Russia. Big deal. That's to be expected. But they're not as invested, ideologically invested, and you could argue financially invested than the Biden family and the Biden White House when it comes to Project Ukraine. So that's my thoughts on Trump's picks. If this is true, I think this may signal a shift to China and to the Middle East, if this is confirmed. But of course, you got to remember that the Obama White House, they were also talking about a shift to the Pacific, and that never happened. So who knows how all of this will play out? Maybe these picks are not confirmed true. Maybe this is just the mainstream media trying to force some picks onto Trump. Who knows? I believe this is what's going to happen because you do have a lot of media sources reporting on Rubio and Waltz, and it would make sense. Two picks from Florida. I wouldn't discount that. Maybe Trump is trying to bring people in that are around him, that he's met many times, and these are picks that have talked about a strong U.S. border, and they have placed conditions on foreign aid with beefing up the U.S. border and investing in I guess you could say America First type of initiatives. So they have kind of placed those conditions on money to Ukraine. I've seen some speeches from Waltz, and yeah, he talks a big game when it comes to Russia and Putin, but you got to imagine that this guy, he's a Green Beret. You got to imagine that he understands that the war is lost. That would be my hope, that he understands this war is over and we have to disengage. Of course, going hard against Iran and possibly going hard against China, not good, but we'll see what will happen. Even Rubio said in a speech a couple of weeks ago that the U.S. has to shift its policy towards Russia and towards Europe. That's why I call them neocon light, is because they're not as ideologically invested in the neocon religion. You know, they're not. I don't see them as true believers. They're believers, but I don't see them as true believers like Lindsey Graham or people like that, or Pompeo, Nikki Haley. Anyway, that is the report on Trump's possible, I stress the words possible, cabinet picks. Trump is going to be meeting with Biden today at the White House, the traditional meeting of the current president. If you want to say that Biden's the current president, I don't know. A meeting of the current president with the president-elect. And according to various media outlets, Biden's going to focus on trying to convince Trump not to abandon Project Ukraine. That's going to be the focus of their discussion. We've always said on this channel and on the Duran that Biden's number one policy, his number one issue, his main focus when he became president of the United States was Project Ukraine. His number one foreign policy focus and his number one focus overall, ahead of the American people, ahead of any domestic policies or issues, Biden didn't care. His number one focus was Project Ukraine, defeating Putin, regime change in Russia. That was his number one focus. That was Blinken's focus. That was Sullivan's focus, Newland, all of them. Their focus was the destruction of Russia, Project Ukraine. And so it looks like Biden's going to make one last ditch appeal to Trump. Please don't abandon Project Ukraine. Because, 10% for the big guy, right? That has to keep on going. 10% for the big guy. Project Ukraine. We'll see how that meeting goes. The Financial Times, they put out an article today with the title, Flattery Profits Peace, Ukraine's pitch to Donald Trump. Two ideas included in Elensky's victory plan were crafted with Republicans' presidency in mind. The Financial Times is reporting via those very trustworthy anonymous sources. We all trust the anonymous sources and the officials who do not want to be named. We all trust those guys, right? Well, according to those guys, Elensky, he created a victory plan. He amended his victory plan so that it becomes more attractive to a Trump administration. That is what the Financial Times is reporting. Podolyak, I will make some changes in my victory plan for Mr. Trump to like. What do you think, Podolyak? I think this is a good idea. And that's what Elensky is hoping for, that these two tweaks in the victory plan will bring Trump on board with the Elensky regime. Basically, the two tweaks to the victory plan are that these are pretty crazy, pretty incredible amendments to Elensky's victory plan when you think about it. But the first one is that when the war is over, the Ukraine military will take over positions that are being held by the U.S. military in Europe. So the Ukraine military is going to take over for the U.S. military, not completely, but in certain areas. I don't know. Germans are going to see Ukraine military in American bases, or the American bases in Greece are going to be staffed by the Ukraine military, something like that. That's the first proposal that Elensky pitched to Trump, replacing American forces stationed in Europe with Ukrainian forces after the war is over. And the second tweak is that Ukraine is going to share their natural resources with the U.S. and Western partners. And the second amendment, according to the Financial Times, is courtesy of Lindsey Graham. So I kind of believe this, actually, because Graham is on record saying many times that the United States has to win in Ukraine, because what we're talking about, Graham said, is something like 14 trillion in natural resources, and the U.S. has to get a hold of those natural resources. That's why victory is so important in Project Ukraine. Lindsey Graham has said that on many occasions. He's on record saying that Project Ukraine is really about getting the natural resources of Ukraine. So those are the two changes made in the victory plan, tailor-made for Trump. And according to the Financial Times, Trump was interested. This is what they're reporting, according to their very, very reliable anonymous sources. Here's what the Financial Times said. Ukraine has been building on its victory plan for the incoming Trump administration, highlighting potential business deals, access to raw materials, and troop deployments in an effort to sway the famously transactional U.S. president-elect. One idea would replace some U.S. troops stationed in Europe with Ukrainian forces after the war. The other, first devised by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, according to people involved in designing Elensky's victory plan suggests sharing Ukraine's critical natural resources with Western partners. Graham's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Trump was interested in the 2 points, according to a person briefed on the meeting. Separately, business leaders in Ukraine are also talking with the government about offering Trump investment screening powers, allowing him to essentially choose who can do business in the country. Basically, Elensky is telling Trump, I will give you shares, maybe even majority shares, in Project Ukraine if you agree to fight Russia on our behalf. That's all this is. This is a way to get the Trump administration invested in Project Ukraine, like really invested in Project Ukraine. I'll give you access to all of our resources. You guys can take everything. And I'll also give you a seat on the board. I mean, that's what he's saying, right? That's what the Financial Times is claiming. They're going to give the Trump administration investment screening powers, allowing him to essentially choose who can do business in the country. So no business with China, no business with Russia, no business with anybody unless you approve it. A seat on the Project Ukraine board will give you majority shares and a seat on the board with veto power. That is what this plan is about. They are trying so hard to get the Trump administration bogged down in Ukraine that they're willing to, if you believe this Financial Times reporting, and this may be accurate reporting from the Financial Times, actually, because of the whole Lindsey Graham resources thing. But if you believe it, then they're willing. The Elensky regime is so panicky, so desperate that he's willing to sell his entire country to the Trump administration if the Trump administration would just help him survive this mess. That's basically what's going on here. Ukraine military taken over for U.S. military. Okay, yeah, right. What Ukraine military are we talking about? Are we talking about the Ukraine military that is 45 years old and up? Is this the military that we're talking about that's going to take over for U.S. troops? Or are we talking about the elite Ukraine forces that are now bogged down in Kursk and being wiped out by the Russian military? It's nonsense, man. It's absolute nonsense. The Trump team would have to be incredibly reckless and stupid. And they're not. They're not stupid, but they would have to be stupid to actually go for this. You would be connected to Ukraine forever. You would be responsible for Ukraine. The United States would actually own Ukraine. They would actually own it. Just take a look at the UK and Germany if you want to see what happens when you get too invested in Project Ukraine. Look at the Biden White House if you want to see what happens when you get too invested in Ukraine. It's the end. It'll be the end of the Trump administration, the end of America first. But Elensky, he's panicking, man. He doesn't have many other options, does he? The only other option Elensky has, I'll tell you the only other option Elensky has, outside of selling his entire country and all of its resources to the Trump administration, the only other option he has is to call up China and to tell China, please, can you mediate something for us with Russia? No joke. That's the only other option he has. And then maybe Russia or China will protect him somehow. I don't know. I really don't know. That's the Financial Times reporting. We got word this morning that we have snap elections in Germany scheduled for February 23rd. So Scholz tried for March. No chance. Merz, Friedrich Merz, the man who gave Russia the ultimatum: either you capitulate to the collective West, Putin, is what Merz said. Either you capitulate to the collective West, you bow down to me, Frederick Merz, leader of the CDU. Putin, capitulate now, or we're going to send Taurus long-range missiles to Elensky. That's how tough the most likely chancellor of Germany is. We're talking about a real badass. Just take a look at Merz. The guy has badass written all over him. Merz, capitulate Russia now, or we're going to give Taurus long-range missiles to Elensky. This is the person that is most likely going to be Chancellor of Germany. This is the guy that told Scholz, we're not interested in helping your government stay afloat. We want elections. Merz wants power. And it looks like February 23rd, we are going to see Germany further disintegrate. The deindustrialization of Germany will be complete with the election of Merz. Is Merz a BlackRock guy? I've seen a lot of people comment and post on my videos when I discuss Merz, saying that he's BlackRock affiliated or associated. I don't know. I actually didn't look into it. Maybe he is, but he's definitely globalist, WEF type of person. And is he smarter than Scholz? No, no, he's not as. It's not a very high bar, to be honest, to say, are you smarter than Olaf Scholz? He's not, but he definitely takes a harder line with Russia. So things are not going to improve for Germany come February 23. And Scholz, he was giving an interview with the media outlet ARD. And Scholz was asked about talking to Putin, and he said, yes, he's ready to talk to Putin. But being the wimpy pirate, pirate Scholz is gone. There was hope for Scholz once upon a time when he was metamorphosizing, when he was transitioning to the pirate, and he had the patch and the parrot on his shoulder. There was hope that maybe Scholz was going to be an acceptable chancellor of Germany, at least pirate Scholz, but nah. Pirate Scholz has disappeared. There is no more pirate Scholz. He's now just Olaf Scholz. Just Olaf Scholz. And he was asked about talking to Putin, and Olaf Scholz said, yeah, I'm ready to talk to Putin, but first I have to get the approval of the allies. He needs the approval of the U.S., the approval of Biden, the eventual approval of the Trump White House, the approval of Ursula, the approval of each them bugs, Klaus Schwab. Poor Scholz. No agency, no sovereignty, no cojones. So he said, yeah, I'll talk to Putin, but I first have to get the approval to do so. Yes, I am going to talk to the Russian president in due course, but I will not do it unilaterally. It involves many contacts and negotiations with many people, which I have been actively pursuing for a long time, the chancellor said, adding that a conversation is likely to happen soon. Now, why would Putin talk to Scholz when he comes out with statements like this? First of all, Scholz is on his way out. So he's gone in February. I doubt he's going to talk to Putin by February. Maybe he will. But why would Putin even entertain talking to Scholz? Why would you talk to someone that has no decision-making power, that has no agency, that has no sovereignty over his country? Why would you talk to someone like that comes out with a statement which says, I'm ready to talk to you, but first I have to get the approval of the people that are really making the decisions for me? Why would I waste my time on you? Putin's time is precious. I wouldn't talk to Scholz. My time is precious. Why would I talk to you, Scholz? You can't make a decision on your own. Why waste 5 minutes on the phone with you? Makes no sense. Anyway, that's Scholz, his interview with ARD. And we are getting reports from UK media, from the Times, as well as the Financial Times. They are both reporting that the RAF chief, the military head honchos in the UK, they are pressing Starmer the most boring man in all of politics, possibly the most boring man in all the world. They are pressing him to green light Storm Shadow missile strikes into Russia. We know that Starmer can't do this. We know that the UK doesn't have the technology to do this. The UK needs the US technology and targeting and satellites and surveillance to actually send Storm Shadow missiles into Russia. But the military in the UK, they're pressing Starmer to give permission to Ukraine to hit pre-2014 Russia with Storm Shadow missiles. The Times is reporting we should let Ukraine fire UK missiles at Russia, RAF chief hints. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go for it. And then watch what Russia's going to do to you, UK and Starmer. And Macron as well, because they're also saying the same thing about Scalp missiles. The Storm Shadow missile is a Scalp missile. Does the UK even have any more Storm Shadow missiles left? I think France has some. But go ahead. Go ahead and do it and see what Russia does to you. Stupid stuff. I'm sure that Russia's going to come out with a statement and they're going to call the UK Starmer's bluff. That's all it is. Starmer trying to act tough. Macron trying to act tough. We know what happened in the past when Macron was talking about sending troops to Crimea. The last time they were talking about Storm Shadow missiles hitting Russia. One statement from Lavrov and Starmer, Macron, all of these guys, the UK military chiefs, they all went into a corner and they got in the fetal position and they were sucking their thumbs once Russia put out the word of what or how they're going to retaliate. We know that they can't do anything without the United States. We know this. We know that the UK can't fire anything without the US's involvement. So all of this stuff is just big boy talk. Remember those commercials? Was it Dos Equis beer commercials with the most exciting man in the world? I think it was Dos Equis beer. And they had was it the most exciting man or something like that? Those were great commercials. They should put out a commercial with Starmer, the most boring man in the world. I would like to see that commercial. I don't know what beer company would want to put something like that out there. I don't know. Maybe Bud Light, the most boring man in the world, with Keir Starmer. Drink Bud Light. Oh boy, El País. They reported, I believe Sunday or Monday, that as we have been reporting on the Duran, and as Alexander has absolutely been reporting, once again, Alexander got it right. He said this like 3 weeks ago, that his sense, and he said, this is just my sense, just my hunch, maybe even further back than 3 weeks, maybe like a month ago, 4 weeks ago. Alexander said, my hunch is that the Elensky regime, they're not interested in Donbass anymore. He's completely focused on Kursk because he has to keep the script, the narrative of Kursk alive. And sure enough, El País, they're reporting, according to their sources, that Elensky's not interested in Donbass. He's completely disengaged from Donbass. And his only focus is on Kursk. And he is sending the most elite of Ukraine's forces into Kursk. He's rotating troops more frequently in Kursk, in the direction of Kursk. Every 10 days or something, the soldiers are being rotated, while in Donbass, it's something like 25 or 30 days. And all the best equipment, the Leopards, the Abrams, whatever, everything is going to Kursk. And he's completely just done with Donbass. This is what El País is reporting. As Alexander reported a month ago, as I've been saying over the past couple of weeks, as we've been saying in the Duran, I said it with an accent, in the Duran. As we have been reporting, welcome to where we are, El País. El País, they said, where's the quote? Where's the quote from El País? I had a quote ready. One sec, guys. Give me 1 second, because El País, they talked to a Ukraine general who also said the same thing, that Elensky's just not interested in Donbass, and everything is going to Kursk. And the situation in Kursk is not going well at all. The deployment, here's the quote, the deployment of these elite regiments to Kursk, however, has been criticized by some military experts. Ukrainian General Dmitry Marchenko has said in an interview that he did not understand the reason for deploying Kiev's best brigades to Kursk while the country's defenses were collapsing. Maybe our leaders have some brilliant secret plan, the general suggested. General Marchenko, this is a Ukraine general that's saying this. The country's defenses are collapsing in Donbass. That's what he said. And he said, maybe our leaders have some brilliant secret plan. They don't, General Marchenko. It's all narrative and spin and optics. Elensky's entire narrative, his entire script, is now focused on Kursk. He even had to layer in the whole North Korea stuff into the script. North Korean troops in Kursk. Everything is about Kursk now. The movie, the screenplay, is not about Donbass anymore. Let me put it this way: they're scrapping the old screenplay. They're throwing it away. Now the screenplay, the movie, is about Kursk and the invasion of Russia and the North Korean troops, who eventually it's going to be we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be the North Korean troops, 100,000, 200,000, whatever the number is going to end up being, that defeat the Ukraine military, that pushed the Ukraine military out of Kursk. It wasn't the Russians. The Russians got desperate and they had to get the help of North Korea to expel the Ukraine forces. We all know what the screenplay is going to be. I was actually joking about this a couple of weeks ago. I said it's 3,000 North Korean troops. Watch it. Then it became 8,000. Then it became 10,000. Then I said, watch it be 12 or 15,000. And I was joking. I said, eventually they're going to get to 100,000. And sure enough, they're already at 50,000. Or they're manipulating the term 50,000. The New York Times is saying 50,000 Russian and North Korean troops in Kursk. So they're playing with words. But we all know how they're going to spin this. The big bad North Korean military, they had to come in and save Putin because things in Russia, very bad. They're running out of shovels. And the washing machine chips, well, you know, Ursula is making sure that they're running out of washing machine chips as well. North Korean shovels, who would have guessed that North Korean shovels are the best shovels in the world, right? Who would have guessed? Anyway, that is what El País is reporting. And do I have any more stories for today? I think that's everything that I wanted to cover for this Tuesday midday. Let's do some clown worlds, kind of clown worlds. I think these are clown worlds. You let me know. Borrell, he is in Kiev. He promised Elensky, he met with Elensky. He promised Elensky 1 million artillery shells by the end of the year. He said, the EU stands with Ukraine. I announced to him that we will meet the target of delivery of 1 million artillery rounds by the end of the year. That is what Borrell posted on X. Yeah, right. We already know that the artillery shells are a disaster. We know that. 20 or 30% of the artillery shells are duds. The EU had to pay 10 times the cost to even get something like 200,000 or 300,000 shells. And this was like back in March or February when they were talking about 200,000 or 300,000 shells to Ukraine. So I imagine whatever shells they could round up and send to Ukraine, I imagine those shells have already been used. But I don't believe anything that Borrell says. Even if he does manage to get 1 million artillery shells, not going to make any difference whatsoever. But Borrell looks awful. He looks awful bad. I don't want to crap on this guy's appearance because Borrell, Jungle Joseph, in the past was a handsome man. He was a handsome gardener, right? And then he got stuck in the jungle, and man, the jungle is really taking its toll on Borrell. I've seen photos of Borrell, and he looks like he's aged 50 years, man. Being a neocon warmonger takes its toll on your physical appearance, Borrell. If you want to look good, you have to think positive and smile and work towards peace. If you wanna look bad, well, then you have to be a warmonger, and then the aging process accelerates. Borrell looks awful, absolutely awful. Next in line is Kaja Kallas. She's being confirmed by the EU Parliament. Right, the EU is they're pretending to be a democracy. So they now have these confirmation hearings because it's all make believe, it's all theater, and they get all of the candidates for the various positions in the European Union, like Kaja Kallas, to take over for Borrell, and she's being questioned by the EU Parliament. It's theater, man. It's so ridiculous. It's theater. Kaja Kallas as the chief diplomat of the European Union. You're telling me 500 million people in Europe, and that's the best that you have is Kaja Kallas as your chief diplomat? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. She's even more obsessed with Project Ukraine. What's she going to look like after 5 years of being defeated by Russia, constantly being outplayed and defeated by Russia? Are you sure you want this position, Kaja Kallas? Are you really sure you want to take this over? You were fine as Prime Minister of Estonia. It could not have been that demanding of a job. I mean, 90% of the time, Kaja Kallas was at conventions and events outside of Estonia. She wasn't really doing much. Why do you want to be foreign policy chief, foreign minister of the European Union, and have to go up against Russia and against China, against Lavrov and Wang Yi, and eventually the United States, we'll see, going up against Rubio. I'll give it to Rubio, actually, as crazy as that sounds. Yeah, Rubio's gonna get the best of Kallas. Oh boy. So the UN, every year since 2005, they have a vote on Nazism, the glorification of Nazism, combating the mustache man. And they had the vote this year. And this year the results were that 54 countries voted against this General Assembly resolution. It passed, it was adopted, but 54 countries, basically the collective West, they voted against condemning the glorification of Nazism. That's what they voted against. This is like a no-brainer resolution, right? Do you support? Do you want to combat this ideology? That's basically what the resolution says. We should all unite as the United Nations to combat this ideology. And 54 countries said, no, we don't want to combat this. We're fine with Nazism. The collective West is the 54 countries. That's it. It started out in 2021. It started out in 2005, but in 2021, only 2 countries voted against this resolution, the U.S. and Ukraine, right? Of course. In 2021, 51 countries voted against this resolution, and now 2024, 54 countries voted against it. Basically the same countries in 2022 with 2024. We're looking at the US, Canada, Germany, France, Australia, Austria, Greece, Italy, Poland, Finland, Czech Republic, and Ukraine were among the nations that rejected this motion. However, their opposition did not prevent the Third Committee of the General Assembly from accepting the resolution titled Combating the Glorification of Nazism, Neo-Nazism, and Other Practices that Contribute to fueling contemporary forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. The document was supported by 116 countries, including Azerbaijan, Algeria, Armenia, Belarus, Bolivia, Brazil, China, Cuba, Serbia, and Syria. Another 11 UN members abstained. The reason they vote against it, the reason the collective West votes against this, is because the argument that they make is that if they voted for this, this would justify, for Russia, this would give Russia justification for the conflict in Ukraine, because one of the goals of the SMO is not only demilitarization, but also denazification. And they say that this is Russia's way of trying to justify the conflict in Ukraine. That's their argument for voting against this. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like the hoodie I'm wearing today or this special edition Duran t-shirt. The link to the Duran shop and our merch is in the description box down below. Take care.